They say, I don't like this new expression. And I say, well, what, you want 2/3 of me to stay outside?
The whole concept of success to me is a little bit warped. Because what are you being successful at in your house trap? That's not successful living.
When the lights were turned on in my life, I realized that I had been in the dark.
The downfall of Lauryn Hill was the most traumatic event for the 90s people, and they have always been curious about the real reason why she quit making music at the peak of her career. Now, some of Lauryn's old interviews have resurfaced that highlight significant details which prove that someone higher up in the industry was out to get her. And it's safe to say that the Illuminati were pulling the strings, given the superstar's absolute dislike toward being controlled. Buckle up, guys, we've got all the deets, so let's dive right in. Lauryn Hill garnered mainstream attention as a member of the band The Fugees before branching off on a solo career. The release of her debut solo album, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, infused the genre with hip-hop and neo-soul. It was certified 8 times platinum, and Lauryn snagged 5 Grammy Awards, including Best New Artist for it. In the wake of her imminent success, Hollywood came knocking, and she was offered roles in Charlie's Angels and The Bourne Identity. But as the industry attempted to push her further and further away from her depths, making Lauryn more uncomfortable with her celebrity status, things started to go off the rails from there. Due to this pressure from the industry big boys, Lauryn started to look for spiritual stability to help her cope with stardom. This, unfortunately, was the first mistake Lauryn made in her long string of blunders. Her expedition for spiritual guidance came to an end after she met Brother Anthony. The most elusive part is that there's no evidence of Brother Anthony's origin. Hill alluded to this fellow in an interview with MTV Online when she was promoting the Unplugged special. She said, "I met somebody. That person had an understanding of the Bible like no one else I ever met in my life. I just sat at their feet and ingested pure scripture for about a year. I started to see I was my worst enemy. I was the problem, my own self-image, who I thought I should be, as opposed to who I really was. I just ate it up." Now, we all know that Lauryn was an intelligent and incredibly intelligent soul. So why is her talk about the so-called truth so blindsided and vague? She speaks like someone who is unable to accept her own greatness. But we all know how confident she was and believed in herself when she started off in her career. Her statements do raise hackles, but it's the next part of the statement that is incredibly mind-boggling. She continues to say, "I started to see that my concept of spirituality was totally wrong, that real religion is no religion at all. Truth is the true covering. And when I started to see that, 2 things happened. My creativity came back in an overflowing abundance, and I got into direct confrontation with everybody I love." Well, we all respect what artistic minds dream as inspiration, but how is it possible to be all right with severing the relationship with their loved ones? Isn't it just a mental tactic to isolate a subject to the extent that one can control their hands and feet? According to an anonymous source, Lauryn is still estranged from her family. She's not in touch with her parents. This guy has separated her from everyone. So it makes people wonder how she ends up in a friendly relationship with someone who manipulates and controls people for a living. Maybe someone set it up because her talent was undeniable, but she refused to be controlled. While discussing a similar case of a cult leader, James Ray, the human relation expert Dr. Patrick Wanis explains human curiosity that leads them to be trapped in such cults.
When those needs aren't being met, we can start to feel emotionally vulnerable. Then we start to look for someone who can solve our problems.
So basically, these cult leaders cash people's desperation and brainwash them into believing that they have the answers people are looking for, when in reality, they don't. The doctor has had many years of experience in dealing with cultish manipulations and the behavioral sciences behind them. He participated in live sessions with real-life cult survivors to help them acclimate to society.
But how did you break away from it? Because that's the hardest part.
What was the
get out of the
point?
cult.
When I was 18, I made the decision that it wasn't for me. I'm finished living my life conforming to the beliefs of someone else.
While discussing the case in point, Dr. Patrick responded, "When they undergo that type of extreme pressure, they easily become susceptible to having an emotional breakdown. Lauryn was smart because she took time off to get herself together. When an artist is under extreme pressure and is close to an emotional breakdown, a nervous breakdown where the stress is just too much and they become vulnerable, it's easy then to turn to someone who could be described as a cult leader." The expert's opinion is further reinforced when we take into account the depressing statement Lauryn gave in an interview.
I can't create and not live. I can't be in this vacuum of, of creativity without life.
Let's not forget what Lauryn went through while she was with the band The Fugees, which subjected her to immense pressure. Early in her career, there was a rumor going around that tainted her name before she could shine with all her might. An apocryphal quote from 1996, in which it was asserted that Hill once said she'd rather her children starve than have white people buy her albums, has lingered in many corners. This quote quite literally destroyed the celebrity image Lauryn had carefully created. But later on, Lauryn tried to do some damage control in an MTV interview, saying,
I mean, I think that it was probably taken out of context. What I was saying is that I make my music for young black youth because I'm a young black youth myself. And there's a message in my song. And that's for people who look and come from the same areas that I do. That doesn't mean that my music isn't universal.
And not to mention the unhealthy and toxic relationship between the band players, especially between Lauryn and Wyclef. The word on the street is that both members were romantically involved at one point, but soon broke up. Wyclef, however, was not over Hill, and some say that he was downright obsessed with her. He talked about her in an interview with the CBC, saying she was a hot chick.
24/7, you're in the studio, and you're doing music, you know what I'm saying? And you're like 19, 20, and you catching a vibe. And every day, I mean, I don't know if you've seen Lauryn, but this was a hot chick.
And for those who do not know, Wyclef was a married man at the time of this interview. His twisted personality came out to play more fiercely when Lauryn began dating Rohan Marley. The whole group suffered due to Y's jealous antics. And then she got pregnant with Marley's child. Things between the group hit rock bottom. Wyclef falsely claimed publicly that Lauryn's child was his and basically badmouthed her every chance he got.
There was nothing in my mind to lead me to not believing
that child was yours,
that it was not mine.
But when Praz asked about the controversy at the time, he denied acknowledging that anything had happened.
Did you know about all this happening?
Man, I was counting my money, man, to be honest with you.
He claimed he had no idea something had happened. Now let me get this straight. It was 20-some years ago, but the paternity test came back negative, and your bandmate was not the father of your other bandmate's child. The media was going crazy about the controversy. So no matter how much time had passed, you can't be so focused that such a big scandal happened right before your eyes and you did not notice. The fans believe that Praz is lying right through his teeth. Praz said, "I was counting my money, to be honest with you. You know, anytime someone says to be honest with you means to lie to your face." In an interview with Vlad TV, Wyclef discussed his part as part of the Fugees band as a dumb move. It's safe to say that everyone in the trio has a career, except Lauryn, which is quite sad. The fans are heartbroken for Lauryn's sake because she's the only one who was the most talented, but she doesn't even have a career now. The way he almost boasts about manipulating and using her is extremely disturbing to me. He's older than Lauryn Hill. He knew what he was doing. Men like this always settle for women who take their shit and boost their egos, ones that are less successful than him. I'm so sorry, Lauryn, that this shaped the course of your life. I'm heartbroken for you. The pressure Lauryn faced to make a name for herself while juggling with family did a toll on her. She explains her struggles in an interview with TMF.
But it's hard, you know, it's hard balancing and juggling. It's hard, you know, being, the regular person that you are one day and the next day being under public scrutiny, you know.
In her Tumblr letter in 2013, she reviewed all her struggles while staying in the industry and came to the conclusion that the higher-ups do not want you to grow unless you grow while being dependent on them. I entered into my craft full of optimism, which I still possess, but immediately saw the suppressive force with which system attempts to maintain its control over a given paradigm. I've seen people promote addiction, use sabotage, blacklisting, media bullying, and other coercion techniques they could to prevent artists from knowing their true value or exercising their full power. That's it for today, folks. Until next time, goodbye.